This is the true story of how the tragic fatality of one of motorsport's most promising talents changed professional racing forever, and how his legacy helped save dozens of lives. Henry Surtees was an up-and-coming 18-year-old racing driver from Britain. Despite his age, he had racked up an impressive resume, with his first car series being the Ginetta GT Juniors in 2006, after several seasons in Karts. From here, he went on to compete in progressively more powerful and prestigious series over the years. He showed talent and willingness to learn right off the bat, and was known for his impressive dedication to the sport. His father, John, put it perfectly though. Most importantly, he was a nice person and a loving son. Speaking of his father, it's worth noting Henry was genetically built to be an absolute track weapon, since his dad is John Surtees. Surtees is a racing legend and the only person to become a world champion on both 2 and 4 wheels. He managed to amass 38 Grand Prix wins and 6 TT wins over his extensive racing career. After Henry demonstrated his impressive racing abilities, he signed up for the Formula 2 Championship so that he could compete in the 2009 season. Driving as car number 7, he managed to score his first podium in the first of 2 races at Brands Hatch on Saturday the 18th of July 2009. Sadly, despite a great start to the series, this podium would end up being his last. The following race, also at Brands Hatch, is where disaster struck in a freak accident which would go on to change Formula Motorsport forever. On the next day, the drivers lined up for their second race of the weekend. 24 Formula 2 cars, all fitted with 1.8 litre Audi turbos capable of putting out up to 450 horsepower, eagerly anticipated their next opportunity to shine. Henry qualified 8th and was putting in a good run, following closely behind Jolyon Palmer, who was racing in number 3. Jack Clark in number 11 was ahead of them, entering into the Westfield Bend. On the exit, he didn't make it round and spun off, smacking into a nearby barrier. At this sort of speed, Palmer's crash was initially seen as fairly routine. The Formula 2 cars are built to match the FIA's F1 safety standards of 2005, so a scrape like this wasn't too concerning. Additionally, the head protection fitted to the cars conformed with 2009 F1 standards, so everyone assumed he was fine. What wasn't expected, however, was that Jack Clark's rear left wheel would come off, headed for the straight after his car bounced off the wall. This shouldn't have happened. Williams, who manufactured the chassis, incorporated road wheel tethers which are designed to stop wheels from coming loose and bouncing around dangerously. Sadly, safety measures aren't always 100% foolproof, and Clark's wheel came free, doing exactly what the engineers were trying to prevent. The wheel bounced straight into the middle of the Derek Minter straight, and this is where disaster struck. Surtees had successfully exited the Westfield Bend, but at exactly the wrong time. Clark's wheel smashed him straight in the head, knocking him unconscious. Surtees sustained a massive blow, with a rough estimate of 29 kilos directly hitting his head at around 100 miles an hour. It's safe to say a helmet and slightly raised cockpit did little to prevent this fatal blow. Henry's car drove down the Derek Minter straight at considerable speed and ploughed straight into the wall past the next turn. The rest of this clip isn't for sensitive viewers, so skip to this point if you would prefer. Since Henry was knocked out, his foot was still on the throttle and there was nothing that could be done. The car slid to the right, hugging the barrier before the car spun out and came to a stop. Even when his car stopped, he was still on the throttle. When marshals arrived at the wreckage, they noticed Henry's visor on his helmet was partially opened, probably as a result of the wheel hitting him so hard. The race was stopped thereafter, and Henry was rushed to a nearby medical centre. He was stabilised and airlifted to the Royal London Hospital, where he tragically passed away from the injuries he had sustained. It was determined that the wheel hitting his head was the cause of death rather than the collision with the barrier. Before the following race at Donington Park, the entire Formula 2 group held a memorial to pay their tributes to the talented young racer who they all admired. Henry's car was lined up in pole position, and all the drivers and the entire Formula 2 team gathered behind it. MSV's John Palmer also joined them, where they all held a minute's silence. All of the cars were fitted with stickers on the rear wing to commemorate him for that race too. He was buried at St Peter and St Paul's Church in Lingfield, Surrey. This tragic incident shocked the racing world to its core, and they knew changes had to be made. Wheels were not meant to be able to detach from cars easily, yet in two crashes mere seconds apart, both of them had wheels which flew off. Henry's father, John, immediately spoke out, hoping that the loss of his son could push the sport in the right direction in terms of safety. He was a key figure in making sure his son didn't die in vain and campaigned loudly for the proper cockpit head protection. Years later, a solution was finally set in place: the halo. It was made compulsory for the 2018 season. The halo had been a welcome positive change to F1, which has already saved several lives. If it wasn't for the halo, there's a good chance several world-class drivers, including Hamilton and Grosjean, wouldn't be alive today. Additionally, in a simulation performed, they determined that if a halo had been fitted to Henry's car, there was a much greater chance he would have survived. John unfortunately never got to witness a season of Formula 1 with the halo implemented because he passed away in March 2017, after which he was buried alongside his son. It's not just the halo which Surtees can be thanked for though. In 2011, the Formula 1 World Championship season doubled the wheel tethers to 2 per wheel in an attempt to prevent wheels flying off, which seems to be working quite well. Also, Henry's organs were donated by his parents, which on its own saved an additional 5 lives. In the year after Henry's passing, his dad set up a foundation named after him to assist victims of accidental brain injuries and to help improve the car safety, motorsport and otherwise. The foundation was highly successful and made a huge difference in the betterment of countless people's lives. Understandably, a few years after John's passing, the foundation came to a close. Their final message was this: a touching memorial to Henry, John, and their positive contributions they brought to the world. Dear supporters and friends of HSF, it has been a quiet year for us at HSF for obvious reasons, and although we have continued to support our charitable partners and causes, it has also given us time to think about the future of HSF. We started HSF following my brother's catastrophic racing accident, and our aims, led by my father John Surtees, are to assist those who have been impacted by accidents and injuries and support them to return to community living. This has meant working with various partners, including air ambulances across the UK to support the national rollout of the Blood on Board scheme, saving valuable time for those impacted by severe injuries to individuals and community recreational activities. It has been a joy to watch over the last 12 years the difference HSF has been able to make, all because of the generous support we have received, and we've been able to donate just under £1 million to our charitable partners. Following Dad's death in 2017, we were proud to be able to deliver one final and very special Brooklands karting fundraising event and further fundraising events both on and off the track. We've continued to partner with the various charities and individuals to be able to help them with their incredibly worthwhile causes. HSF has always been a bittersweet venture for us as a family, born from huge personal suffering, and as a family we have been comforted by the good we have been able to achieve. As our lives move on to new family members and new ventures, We know this is not something we could trust to those outside our family, and have therefore decided it is now the right time to bring HSF to a close. For us, HSF is just part of Henry's legacy. Most of all, we will remember him as a loving son and brother who brought us so much cheekiness and joy into our lives. We are immensely proud of the work HSF has done in his memory, and most of all, we want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has supported us. The HSF is now closed, of course, so I won't be able to leave a donation link to it. Instead, I've left a link down below if you would like to support Mission Motorsports instead. They're a charity which aims to help in the recovery and rehabilitation of veterans by giving them opportunities in racing. They've helped over 2,000 veterans get involved in racing, not only in driving, but also employment. If this video has ads running, I'll be donating all of the ad revenue to Mission Motorsport too. Although this story involved the tragic passing of a highly talented young driver with the whole world ahead of him, I hope that this shows more of a positive side to his legacy as well. Despite Henry's age, he has had a massive positive influence on the racing world and the wider world too. Rest in peace.